Hi guys, I'm back with the latest film, and this is a bit of a weird one because it's Annihilation. And the reason why I'm saying it's a bit weird is because it opened in the States a couple of weeks ago, but for the rest of the world, no theatrical release, and it was released on Netflix, which I kind of hate because I think films should be watched in cinema, but a lot of people have Netflix, and so a lot of people might see this film which they otherwise wouldn't. It's very strange. So we're going to do our usual thing. I'm going to tell you whether you should watch this. Then I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail, and then boy, do we have a lot of spoilers to unpack afterwards. So the quick thing is, should you see this film, you should definitely see it. If you like kind of horror, weird films, definitely see it. But also it's doing some different kind of things, great actors. I'm going to talk about it in a second, but definitely see it. I'll be back soon. Okay, so here we are, Annihilation. So the reason why you might know about this is Annihilation is based on this book by Jeff Vandermeer, and it's part of a trilogy called the Southern Reach Trilogy. Jeff Vandermeer won the Nebula for it, and it was the best book that I read that year, which I think a couple of years ago now. It's fantastic. So Alex Garland, who you know from Ex Machina, famous writer, wrote The Beach, also worked with Danny Boyle, 28 Days Later, known kind of guy. He famously read the book once, wrote the script, never read the other books. So that gives you a bit of an idea that this is very different to what Jeff Vandermeer has written about. In fact, in a lot of ways, apart from the basic kind of tenets of the book, it's very different. So, just quickly, there's been this weird thing where a meteor strikes in the Florida Panhandle, and extraterrestrial kind of force comes out, and it emanates itself in this weird thing, which is like if you think of oil on water, but it's like a force field, and it's called the shimmer. And they've sent teams in, they don't come back out. One guy eventually comes out, Oscar Isaac, who was also in Ex Machina by Alex Garland, and he comes back, but very soon he's very ill and it's kind of all weird. And he's married to Lena, a biologist, played by Natalie Portman, and she wants to know what happened. So very soon she volunteers to go with the next team going in, all-female team, and they're going to go in and find out what is happening. Look, so the film is beautiful. Really, this is one of the first films I've ever seen which really can show how you can have beauty which is absolutely horrific. So think of a poisonous plant or flower, which you look at it and go, wow, that's beautiful, but if you ate it or got scratched it or whatever, it'd kill you. This is the same thing, because what is happening in the southern, we find out very quickly that it has changed the physics of Earth within that area, and it seems to be spreading. So not only is electromagnetism and other things, they're all starting to not operate properly, and it's explained pretty quickly. Think of it as a prism. So if you think of a prism from when you were in high school physics, white light comes in and the spectrum comes out the other way, and it is refracted. So if you think about that, but then think, could it refract other things? And time, maybe your DNA, just the way you think, your emotions even. So it's a very weird place. And very soon, if you're operating in a place like that, not only are there physical dangers, because it's quite obvious very quickly that the DNA is changing of all the animals which live in the, if you think of Florida, it's like the Everglades, so there's alligators and stuff. So they're changing. Humans who might have been in there have changed, and also the party itself. Are they going insane? Are they changing? It's really interesting kind of stuff. So, well acted. Natalie Portman's great, Oscar Isaac are great. In fact, everyone is really good, but Jennifer Jason Leigh plays the leader. And I just love Jennifer Jason Leigh on any day, but this is just a great role. And I can't help but wish that if they did the trilogy, like as a mini series, they could bring Jennifer Jason Leigh back. She was, really, really good in this. So the acting's good, looks great, really interesting, just general film, which actually probably owes as much to H.P. Lovecraft as it does to Jeff Vandermeer's book, because this is almost the identical plot, at least the beginning of it, to H.P. Lovecraft's 1927 novel, The Colour Out of Space. And as we all know, I pray at the Church of H.P. Lovecraft. He's just one of my favorite authors of all time. And so it's really interesting to see that taking the mythos, which is almost, well, what I like about the mythos is that it's just a force. It's not got an agenda. It's not being evil. It's not twirling its mustache. It just does stuff. And if humans are in the way or anything else, bad luck. And this is what this starts to do. They start to explore what actually is happening here. What is the nature of this force? It's a really interesting movie, but I will say, before we go into spoilers, the reason why it didn't get a theatrical distribution is the guys who watched it, like the film bosses, said, you really have to think. None of this is spoon-fed to you. So they didn't think audiences could cope with it. I think audiences can. I don't think they're giving credit to people. But having said that, don't just think you can watch this while doing other stuff. You got to watch every frame because you are never quite sure what's real and what isn't. Going to come back with spoilers. Tons to talk about. I'm going to explain the ending. Okay, see ya. Okay, so now we're in spoilers, so I'm assuming you've seen the film, and I want to just talk just generally about the film, and then I'm going to explain the ending, or at least give you some theories as to what is actually happening, because I don't think it's quite obvious, and even if you think it's the obvious, I think there might be a little bit more going on. I think Garland's doing a few things here. So the first thing I wanted to talk about were just thematically. The film seems to be, like, obviously the title is Annihilation, and very early on they introduced this concept of cancer and how cancer is a force, it's a malevolent force, it's a natural force, but it's not like cancer goes, I'm going to get this person or do this. It just occurs, it just transgresses your DNA and just does what it needs to do, and then it just annihilates you. So very early on they're talking about how life is got this biologically built-in ability to annihilate itself. Then on top of it, it talks about how humans just tend to sabotage themselves and annihilate themselves. And you'll very quickly see that all the characters in the film really have a reason to annihilate themselves. They've either, they're not happy, they're depressed, they're self-harming, they've lost someone so much so that they can't operate. And so what it seems to be saying is humanity itself can sometimes be almost like a cancer, in that if you look around, we know climate change is happening, but no one seems to be doing much about it. We're ruining the environment. We have this kind of propensity for self-destruction. So that's set up very early on. And then, as I've discussed before, they soon realized that within the shimmer, there's this prism, and it's affecting not only physical forces, but DNA and emotions. And that becomes very important later on. I did want to talk quickly about two scenes, because it'll be very easy for me to forget about it later on. And that is, one, there's a scene very early on, which is a flashback to Natalie Portman's Lena and Oscar Isaac's Cain. And they're as a couple, they're in bed, and they're just talking, and they're flirting. And what I loved about it was, I don't think I've seen a better realistic couple scene as this in a long, long time, because what it gets is that banter between two people who are relatively equal in terms of the relationship, and how they can be putting each other down, but in a loving way. The way that they're just natural with their bodies, the way that both the man and the woman are touching each other. He tickles her for a little while, and then as it's building, it's actually, we work out by the end of it, they're flirting and building up to having sex, and it's just so natural and really very loving. And I just thought it was really, really well done. If you think about these kind of scenes, they're normally really bad. They're hard to do naturally, and they kill it. Now, the one scene I did want to talk about, and I think it's the best scene in the film, and I think it's the scene which, I'm always looking for scenes which stretch either narrative or technical, the envelope. And this one does kind of both. And it's the scene where the three of them are tied down because one of the team members is on the point of going insane, if not already insane, and is questioning them. And a bear enters, which is kind of like a prismatic bear in that its DNA has been changed. And it's the bear which has already killed, I think, Landers, the linguist, earlier on. And the reason why I talk about it is the bear is essentially alive and dead simultaneously. And it's horrific. It's got a horrific face because it's kind of like it's within its death knell, the death mask has melted, so it's part skull. But the main thing which gets you is its eyes are dead. They're just completely horrific. There is no soul there. And yet, because of this prismatic effect, it has, by killing Landers, absorbed her last emotions. So while it's trying to bleat, what is coming out is not the growl of a bear, but actually this kind of attenuated cry of her. It has absorbed that pain, that scream, and it's just going to keep bleating this for as long as it's alive. So it's horrific visually, it's horrific even more audially, and beyond that, just the whole idea of it. This is, to me, a horror trope which I will always remember. He has created an image which I had not seen before, and it's absolutely brilliant. Even if you went into film, you could just watch that scene and go, my God, that guy has come up with something new, something I've never seen before. Okay, so just wanted to get that out there. As you can see, I thought it was just amazing. So the ending. A lot of people aren't sure what is happening in the ending. They know that it looks like by the ending, Lena has come out because we see her being questioned at the beginning and then everything's flashback. She's an unreliable narrator, that's for fucking sure. Who knows what the hell is going on? We don't even know, really, is it Lena? Because, of course, right near the end, there's the famous scene in the lighthouse where she fights with her double after seeing that and realizing that her husband killed herself and that the person who came back is not her husband, but this double. And so it's very interesting because on the very easy reading is right at the end when she looks and she's questioning with her husband, he says, "Are you Lena?" You're not sure. And then you see the shimmer in the eye, which would kind of indicate, okay, she's not Lena, she's this duplicate. But we don't know that because, of course, she had already tested her blood halfway through the film and she had already seen that her cells were being affected by the shimmer, but she was still Lena. So it's possible that it is the original Lena, she's come back, but she is infected and therefore it's reflected in the eye. I think there's a much more interesting way of looking at this, and that is that when you go into the lighthouse, it is very odd that a lot of people have gone to the lighthouse, lots of teams have tried to do stuff, obviously lots of people have been absorbed by this life, by the shimmer, and it still was just spreading. When we get there to the lighthouse, she goes down and she finds Ventress, played by Jason Lee, and she's basically giving herself over. She wants to be annihilated, and we know that she's been sick for a long time, and we're pretty much sure she's got cancer, which again gets back to this theme I was talking about before. And she's giving herself over to this thing. She's totally absorbing it. I think that at that point, this life force, this alien, this extraterrestrial, has realized that it has been infected because of this prismatic effect, that their DNA now has cancer. So it's already kind of not sure what's happening. Then in comes Lena, who throughout her whole life has used self-destructive behavior. We know she cheated on her husband, destroyed her marriage. We know that she depressed herself to the point where she was not happy. This is a self-destructive person, probably wrestling with depression, and she then is the next one absorbed. And this is what I love about this film. It absorbs not only your DNA, not only the cancer of interest, it absorbs the emotions. She gives it her depression, which means that as the thing wrestles with her and tries to create this double, it creates a depressive double. And so therefore, you are able to have this scene where she gives it the phosphorus grenade, tricks it, maybe, but when the grenade goes off, instead of trying to save itself, the shimmer destroys itself. Garland has done something very, very clever here. He is talking about numerous horror tropes in a new way. This is really fascinating stuff, and I need to watch it again. I've read the books, I've watched it once, and I'm still probably need to see it again. I think this is a very interesting film. I don't think it really matters if it's Lena or not. I suspect that it is Lena, but just she's just been infected. But there's a reason why the shimmer all of a sudden is destroyed. What has been its incredible strength, this prismatic effect on everything, has been turned in on itself. And the lesson is that humans are incredible at annihilating all good things in the earth. But if you're an alien and you come here, we'll probably kill you some way. We'll just work out a way, even if it's just through our emotions. You've never had an ending like that before. This is real great sci-fi stuff. Okay, so that's it for today. I'm going to be doing a million films coming. Please subscribe if you like my stuff. Hit the bell so you always know when I've got new material. And I'm on Twitter at Guru Eden. So I'll talk to you then. Bye.